Technical difficulties and everything else aside, welcome to episode 153 of the Wise Guys Sports Show here on the Wise Guys YouTube and Twitch channels. I'm one of your hosts, Jim Crenity. I'm going to bring in my co-host, Mike Martinez. Mike, very, very special night ahead of us.
It is amazing. It has been this long, but a very, very special episode tonight, as we've really not done a whole lot of live this year. It was used to be Sunday nights, 9 p.m. It was appointment television, as it were. For our audience, but now we are a pre-recorded. You work your magic with the technical, and we're up once a week. But tonight, yeah, we needed to be live tonight, Jim.
Could have started earlier, but I had a little bit of an issue. Couldn't get the camera to go. It's the first time I've actually run a live show since I've got the new computer and camera and everything. It just wasn't registering. Sure enough, all I had to do was log out and log back in. Showing you guys how the how the donuts are made. Donuts. unless they're Krispy Kreme, then toss them out the damn window.
Are we doing this now?
Donut.
We're 5 minutes in, and we got not even 5 minutes in, a Homer Simpson reference already. I love it.
But Marge, I'm so sweet and tasty.
Dude, that was creepy as shit. Don't ever do that again.
It was the one. I think that was a Treehouse from Horror where Homer turned his head into a donut.
That's exactly what it was. I remember it.
Yep. But Michael, before we get to the main event tonight, I'm not going to run the hat trick intro because we really don't kind of do that much with the live shows. But we've got to we're giving out flowers all night tonight. We're throwing out flowers into sports. We're not really talking very much baseball or football tonight. It's really just on the grass, and there's going to be a little bit of grass talk in the second half of the show. We're namely going to talk the ice and the hardwood, and quite honestly, it's going to be for the final time until the fall. Provided free agency doesn't go absolutely nuts, and if the NHL is any sort of indication, with the big trade that happened earlier today between the Leafs and the Lightning, that's for another day. We could be in for a very, very interesting off season. But first, let's look into how this season ended in 2026, and let's kick it off by the New York Knicks win their first championship in 53 years. Michael, could you have ever predicted a more lopsided finals with the end result, but a more entertaining series?
No, you really couldn't. And you and I talked about this when we did our quick show prep. What was it last night? This was one of the more entertaining, really the most entertaining finals since 10 years ago. You're talking about a team that won all 4 games in comeback fashion, including all 3 games played in San Antonio. I think that's lost in all this.
Right.
Is that the Knicks won all 3 games in San Antonio. They, of course, get the doors blown off them the first finals game in the Garden since 1999. And then they come back for 17, 8? No, it was more. It was like 29 down in game 4.
Down, 29 down with about 6 minutes to go in the third quarter in the greatest comeback in the history of the NBA playoffs.
Yeah, and this, you knew when that happened, that because we were on the air that night. We were on with John. That was episode 150, and we had said, could the Spurs pull off what the Cavs did 10 years ago? And we were like, no. Basically, that series was over once that game 4 was over. It was just a matter of time. Would San Antonio show up and get a respect win on their own floor and have the Knicks win it in game 6? I will say this. Spurs looked like they were going to get that respect win in game 5 in San Antonio. And then all of a sudden, the second half, Jalen Brunson just took over. He set the record for most points in a closeout game, if I'm not mistaken, with the 45 he threw up in game 6.
Yep.
Listen, hats off to the Knicks, man. They had their parade down the Canyon of Heroes today in New York City, or yesterday. I will say this, not getting too political on you here, but Mayor Mamdani's speech was off the charts. He basically referenced every big player since 1973. He threw up Bernard King's 60-point game. He talked about Patrick Ewing dunking on the Pacers. He talked about John Starks dunking on Jordan and Pippen. He talked about the 4-point play with Larry Johnson. He talked about the ball Allen Houston threw up as a prayer at the end of that series against Miami. He talked about Starberry. He talked about Carmelo. Mamdani proved he was a New Yorker in that speech. I mean, he just went in as a fan. And, you know, I have family. I grew up a Knicks fan. Then you came up to me in college and said, yo, your boys just got rid of Patrick Ewing. And the Knicks became dead to me. And I wear the wine and gold for the last 26 years. Excuse me. It was nice to see that literally on the 32nd anniversary of the Rangers Stanley Cup parade, the Knicks had their own down the Canyon of Heroes. Would it have been nice to see Patrick Ewing be a player on this team? Yes.
Right.
There are certain players, we've talked about this before. There are certain players in certain franchises, no matter what you feel about that franchise, they should have gotten a ring. I can't stand the Miami Dolphins. Dan Marino should have a ring. Padres could come and go. Tony Gwynn should have a ring. Cincinnati or Seattle, Ken Griffey Jr. should have a World Series ring.
Tony Gwynn, it's
Tony Gwynn.
We've talked about them all.
It's really Barkley. Yeah, it's Barkley. It's
Karl Malone,
John Stockton,
Moses Malone.
The guys. Moses has one. He was on the Philly team in '83 that beat.
That's right. That's right.
So, seeing the Knicks win again, I have ties because I have family ties to it, but also I love the teams that haven't won in a long time getting it done. So was I pulling for the Knicks in a series? Partially yes, partially no. Would have been nice to see Wemby get a ring this early and prove that the Spurs were back. It would have been great.
Mm-hmm.
But let me tell you this, the better team won. They beat their ass.
Am I wrong in saying this because of the fact that it's the Knicks and we know how much the media, especially ESPN, loves the Knicks for a lot of their personalities and the fact that they've changed their offices to New York? They don't really, they don't even broadcast out of, they've got a little bit of pull in Stamford. They're headquartered out of there, but they primarily work out of DC with Scott Van Pelt, LA, and in New York. And that's really about it. They've certainly got offices all over the place, but not only did the better team win, not detracting anything away from the Spurs because they're going to be back. They may
Oh
it
God,
might be
yes.
Oklahoma City's turn again next year. Um, we'll see. But the Spurs definitely proved that they belong, and this is definitely not a 1 year flash in the pan. This was not the 2007 Cavs that it's Wemby and a whole bunch of other guys. There are some stars in that San Antonio locker room and within that organization. But Michael, the Knicks were likable. That hasn't
Yes.
happened in a long, long time. And I'm talking not even the Patrick Ewing, John Starks, Oakley days because there were some thugs on that team.
Yeah, there were thugs on that team, but that was also the time. And by the way, remember who their coach was? It was Pat
Right,
Riley.
right.
And for all the Showtime things you got out of Magic and Kareem and Worthy, they had punks on the Lakers too.
Yeah.
But their best player was a point guard on the Lakers. Their best player on the Knicks was a center. Different team, different way to run it. These Knicks were likable for multiple reasons. Number one, Jalen Brunson took $100 million pay cut to put this roster together. Karl Anthony Towns, for as much as you can rail on him, is a good dude. They don't whine. They don't complain. They play hard. And another hat's off, Mike Brown. The coaching job Mike Brown did.
Finally.
You know, we made the joke about when the Cavs we thought the Cavs would come back, but they've got Mike Brown in there, the Knicks. Mm-hmm. Well, this is a different Mike Brown, and this is a different New York Knicks.
Look at the jobs with Brown, the 2 stints with Cleveland that unfortunately did not turn out the way that they wanted to. He got railroaded in Sacramento with a team that was definitely on the come up, and then once that happened, Sacramento's basically back at square one. I mean, let's be honest. Them moving DeAndre Fox, it basically, within the same 12-month, span of releasing Mike Brown, when they were that close to really trying to get themselves into that second level in the Western Conference. And now they're going to be picking second in the draft in next week. At that point, and then he goes to New York, and quite honestly, nobody really thinks about Mike Brown with that. Everyone's, he's a good coach. We know that he can coach. We know he's a good quality head coach, but he always had that JB Bickerstaff, that Rick Edelman, to an extent also a George Karl. He was good enough to get there. He was never good enough to get you over that hump because of always the stigma on him and the asterisk on him was, oh, he had LeBron. Oh, he had Darren Fox. Oh, he's got Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns. Well, guess what? He's got a ring. And there's a whole lot of guys out there, that don't, right? Do you realize he's got almost as many? I mean, now he's finally got his first one. And there's guys in the Hall of Fame that don't. It's, for everyone that talks Doc Rivers and Tyronn Lue, he's got as many rings as Tyronn Lue, and he's got one less than Doc Rivers.
He does. And I will say this about the Mike Brown thing and then pivot. Mike Brown has always been a defensive stalwart head coach. What he learned this year was to finally make the adjustments on the offensive end. That is when the Knicks took off. They had that big game in Atlanta when they lost and went down 2-1. Do you know from that point on, I think the only game they lost was game 3 in the Garden in the finals?
Yeah.
They didn't lose again.
Because they ran roughshod through Philly in round 2. They ran
rest of Atlanta
through Cleveland in round 3. Yeah.
And won in a gentleman's sweep in the finals.
16-3 in the playoffs. Yep.
Yeah. I saw a crazy stat. Jalen Brunson has more playoff wins in the last 2 seasons however long he's been there, 2-3 years. In those seasons, it's more than double the 20 years before that. And here's the other thing too. The Knicks made a tough choice a couple years ago going to get Karl Anthony Towns. You broke up that Villanova core you had with Josh Hart and Brunson and DiVincenzo and those boys who all won championships together in college. Cat wasn't the missing piece. Mike Brown was the missing piece because Tibbs had the same roster with very little difference. And Tibbs lost in the Eastern Conference Finals last year. Move forward a year, bring in Mike Brown. You get to the finals. When you get to the finals, you get the W. So hats off again to the Knicks. Hats off to Mike Brown, to the MVP, to Jalen Brunson, who apparently is going to end up being in Law and Order at some point in time because he's what's her name's favorite player, Mariska Hargitay's favorite player.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, off topic. You got to go see her and Jamie Lee Curtis did one of those actor to actor things.
I will pay attention to that. And do you also realize the only game the Knicks lost? And yeah, I'm going to go here.
Quite frankly, I'm a worthless fucking fat ass who shits his pants.
And fell asleep.
Yeah. Oh boy. So yeah, hats off to the Knicks. I love it. My other favorite thing that came out of the Knicks parade is people are saying that the drunk who was thrown out was Mr. Met. So
was Daryl? Did they have a costume big enough for Daryl Strawberry?
No, but if Doc would have shown up, would have been his first parade through the Canyon of Heroes. He was too coked out to go to the one in '86. Hey, did you see one of their players? Did you see one of their players that Tyler Kolek almost got denied entrance into the parade because they thought he was a fan, not a player?
Yeah. Yup, I did see that.
I mean, poor guy. You just want to, but you're gonna have a big fat ring. Watch Dolan go cheap on the rings. That son of a bitch.
I mean, quite honestly, he better not. I mean, at this point,
it's got to be the Cavs ring times 2, is really what it's got to be because New York's more profitable than Cleveland.
Speaking of which, very, very quickly before we shift topics, did you happen to see the Seahawks unveiled their rings?
I did not.
They are very, very cool. They actually, I believe they open up to where now it actually like the top of the ring folds out to make it look like Quest Field.
That's cool.
Very, very cool.
Well, the Cavs ring opens up too. That's that one, and because of course, famously, you gave me the 2014 championship Ohio State ring. The next thing I'm going to do when I'm able to is I want to get the one they got in 2024 that had the Rose Bowl, the Cotton Bowl, and of course the national championship ring. But a Cavs ring, I would love one of those too. Just because, I mean, that was 52 years in the making. That's one that'll go down.
Yeah, I think I'm actually going to try and track one of those down. I think I'm going to try to find the wonder if they might have them on the same place that I got you the Buckeye ring, and also when I got my when my brother got me the Blues ring for Christmas a couple of years ago, the replica. So I'm going to try and track one of those down for each of us here before the end of summer.
There's also somebody on TikTok. I'll look at it because I follow them. I'll let you know what they come out with. But Jim, we had another champion crown this week.
We did, and as the Knicks claim their first one in 53 years, the Carolina Hurricanes didn't have to wait nearly that long as they won their first cup in 20 years. Remember, Carolina won the Stanley Cup the year the NHL came back after the lockout, and down Vegas, not vegan. What the hell was I thinking there?
You were thinking fuck Jack Eichel. That's what you were thinking.
Yeah, it's definitely F Jack Eichel and more importantly, F Carter Hart. It's that was the everlasting sign for me was Carter Hart crying. Good. The fact that the Carolina fans relentlessly kept chanting Carter, and then the very next minute it changes to no means no instead of go Canes go. And do you realize that
Are we
Carter Hart go ahead.
are we discussing the World Cup at all?
In the second half, yeah, for a minute.
But we will have to go over the chance from today's Australia.
Oh yeah.
US
We're
game.
definitely going to talk about those because I
Good.
definitely made a
I'm
point of
glad.
it.
I'm glad.
It's and also the aspect with with Carter Hart when Carolina won Game 6 3-0. First of all, it was the first shutout in a clincher in a number of years. I want to say it goes back to um, maybe one of Chicago's first ones, or it might have been a Pittsburgh closeout against Chicago. I can't really remember at that point, but also
Chicago's coming to mind.
but it's also the fact that Carter Hart let in 3 without consent. How apropos. And yes, I've stolen that joke 27 different ways off of Instagram and Facebook this week. As I've actually just gotten up to, I want to say I'm right before where Aerith gets killed in the Final Fantasy VII remake.
Oh, okay.
Which broke all of our hearts when we were teenagers.
It did.
Because now she's even
Speaking
more
of-
likable, and now you have to choose between her and Tifa who you want to date, you know?
Yeah. So, off topic, video game. We did the facial scan thing. I do it for the show every time I do it. We did it for Bobby. Oh, it was bad. He got scared.
I tried it once for an NHL game. I'm like, yeah, I'm never doing that again.
I do it every time for the show just because I think it's cool because it comes out okay. And of course, it automatically does the hair for me.
Because it's easy, because there isn't any.
Exactly. There is some now. I got suckered into something at his vacation Bible school. I didn't have a chance to shave tonight. So, yeah.
But the clincher in Game 6 in Vegas was really the only close. It was the only non-close game in that series. I mean, this was,
Oh yeah.
It was the first time, really outside of Game 1, that a team had won by more than 2 goals. And again, it was a 3-0 win by Carolina in there. Jordan Stahl, 38-year-old Jordan Stahl, the captain, named the Conn Smythe winner. 18 years between Stanley Cup wins, and also becomes the oldest player ever to win the Conn Smythe Trophy, even though he was not Carolina's leading scorer in the playoffs, but he was their leading goal scorer, and very, very good. I think it was the right call that was made, but you also really, really need to actually think that he may not have actually it could have potentially gone to his name is eluding me as I'm trying to look it up here right now. The young goaltender that they signed who's going to get a boatload of Brandon Bussey. And very good. I mean, just the names kind of getting thrown around. Freddie Anderson, talk about him coming back on a couple year contract. As my
no audio.
There we go.
There you go.
But yeah, my camera just reset. But Freddie Anderson, there's teams thinking, is he going to stay? Is he going to go somewhere? He's on the backside of his career. He's only got a couple of years left himself. Taylor Hall gets himself a ring, goes from being a number 1 pick to kind of being bounced around. They thought he was going to be the savior in Buffalo. He gets traded halfway through the season to Boston. It doesn't work out there. He goes to Carolina, wins himself a ring. Jackson Blake really earned himself a massive contract by being the leading scorer for the Carolina Hurricanes in these playoffs. Logan Stankoven gets, definitely gets a ring. Jacob Slavin is now a household name. He's got himself a ring. So this is, and more importantly, Rod Brindamore gets himself a ring as a coach And he would have loved to have done it as a player. He's now got it as a coach, and scared the hell out of every hockey fan in the world when he went to hoist the cup. I don't know if you saw this.
I did not. What happened?
Instead of when he got handed the cup, instead of trying to push it over his head, he took it and he tossed it, and then he bear hugged it. And we're thinking, if that thing slips, that thing's going to hit the ice. And he did it on purpose, because then he also did it in the locker room afterwards.
Somebody's been practicing with something that heavy to do that.
I mean, Rod Brind'Amour is also the most ripped head coach you will ever see.
Brind'Amour's a beast.
He's 55 years old, dude.
We've done an ode to Sting, who was 70 flying off a fucking ring post.
Hey, watch your mouth.
Am I wrong?
I mean, Brind'Amour, I don't think he won it as a player. I know he played in the finals in '97 with Philly. He also played. Let's see, was he a part of?
Why do I think he was with Tampa when they won their first one?
No, he did win one. He won it. He won it with that. He was the 05. He was on that 06 team with Carolina that won. So he's one of the, I think he became only like the third or fourth player in history to win the cup as a player and a coach with the same team.
That's crazy. That's awesome as hell, but that's crazy.
And two big pieces of history with it. Well, actually, one very, very cool thing that happened. And something that we've never seen before. And I'll come back to this here in a minute. It was a piece of history that I teased previously, and it finally came to fruition. And I think it really slipped under the radar here. After the Hurricanes won, and before it might have been just before the cup came out and Vegas had left the ice, and a lot of the Vegas. Well, actually, I think it was after the cup had already been on the ice and passed around a bunch, and it. I'm trying to remember who got the first handoff, because Stahl said who it was going to. I'll look that up here in just a second, but Jordan Martinook skates over to some of his teammates as they're celebrating and says, "You want to do a storm surge?" In Vegas. The storm surge is where Carolina, after a home win, surrounds the center circle and then does the skull chant.
That's awesome.
In Vegas for their fans, because nearly 3,000 Carolina fans made the trip and took over the T-Mobile Arena.
Oh, yeah. You knew they would.
Carolina travels just about as well as any team in the NHL. I mean, really, you think Leaf fans, you think Hab fans, you think potentially Ranger fans. Carolina, their fans may be the most loyal. And it's also something that we have not seen the Stanley Cup go above the Mason-Dixon line. And even if you actually throw Vegas in there from a few years ago, look at the last few champions. Carolina, Florida the 2 years previously, Tampa, Vegas, Tampa, St. Louis, Washington, D.C. That's the furthest.
Yeah, and that's amazing. I will say this, watching the Mets over the weekend, they brought up, congratulations to the Hurricanes, and Gary Cohen goes, "That's the Hartford Whalers to you. Thank you very much."
It is it's always weird when you see a transplant. It's like, for us being Clevelander, me being a native Clevelander, you living here as long as you did, seeing the Ravens win Super Bowls, or the when the Colts won their Super Bowl, immediately people started thinking back to Baltimore. It's always weird when you see a transplant team, especially one that had a history, previously with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, you talk about the Whalers, there's automatically people that think when Colorado won the cup a few years back, and that's another one I forgot. Colorado, who won the year before Vegas, who were from Quebec for all those years, and then have now since
Yeah.
won 3 cups in the Mile High City. But Michael, we had a piece of history that's never happened before when the Knicks won the title on Saturday night, and then the Knights won, and I'm sorry, then the Hurricanes won on Sunday night. Do you happen to know what that is?
Not a clue.
It is the first time in history that the NBA and the NHL have crowned champions on back-to-back nights, and
Really?
both clinching games happened on the road.
That is interesting.
The only other time that ever happened where the NBA and the NHL finished in back-to-back nights, 1994. But the Rangers won in MSG. The Rockets
And the Knicks lost
also
on the road.
won in MSG.
That's right. Unreal.
That is something we have never
Unreal.
seen before. And quite honestly, we may actually go 50, 60, 70 years before we ever see that again. I thought that was a very, very cool piece of information.
Absolutely, it is. Absolutely, it is. So, James, when we thought about doing tonight's show live, our next segment is the main reason why. And I think we've got a little something to kick it off, as only people who are fans of this team can kick it off.
As I am trying to get it loaded here. It's been a while since I've done this.
You're good, man. Hey, we're 2 segments down, only 32 minutes. We are on it.
Yep. Just trying to figure out which one I want to pull up first. Yeah, we'll go with this.
We got the one's got to be the end.
Yeah, I'm going to play them both, but I'm trying to figure out which one I want to do first. We'll do this one here.
All right.
We all know this one finally had a happy ending.
Grabbed by Spades. Spades fires, and this one is over. Believe it, Cleveland. Savor it. Soak it in. The kid from Akron has come home. The Cavaliers are NBA champions, and the impossible dream has come true.
This is what you get in the business to do, call an ultimate game 7. When you're a kid in the backyard, shooting your shots, it's making that game 7, it's hitting the game-winning home run. The most special part about going into the locker room was to see it on the players' faces, almost a relief and an understanding about what they did for this city. And those guys in that locker room knew, and I think instantly appreciated exactly what they had done.
And we want to remind you that if
Video courtesy of WKYC, Channel 3, the NBC affiliate here in Cleveland. I will actually link the original video in post-production for tonight. And the voice that you heard was Cleveland play-by-play announcer, radio play-by-play announcer John Michael, who took over for the legendary Joe Tate, who got to call so many legendary Cavs playoff games back in the 80s and early 90s. And then Joe retired and never got to see the Cavs in the NBA Finals because of the fact of how great those Cavs teams were. They always basically they were actually defined by the fact that they could never get past Michael Jordan, as Michael basically used the Cavs as a stepping stone to become the greatest of all time, as I'm taking the line from watching Believe Land earlier before we came on tonight.
I have called it the greatest Father's Day in Northeast Ohio history.
As we say it, with Father's Day being tomorrow.
Sunday, as I kick my table all over.
Because you know what it is? Because of the fact that we all had today off because of the holiday. We're thinking it's Saturday already.
I was
Not
off
Friday
all week.
night.
Yeah, I was off all week, so it's
Oh, Lordy frickin' God!
Shut up, Dick. But it was 10 years ago tonight that we all sat on our couches at 9 p.m. Eastern time, and we listened. If you watched it on TV, you heard Mike Breen talk about Game 7 of the 2016 NBA Finals, the rematch of the year before between the Cleveland Cavaliers and the now 73-9 and greatest single regular season of all time Golden State Warriors. Jim, what a game it was. The epicness of that game. You had the storylines were crazy. Of course, you had the first team ever down 3-1 to force a Game 7. You had LeBron coming off back-to-back 40-point games in his quest to give Northeast Ohio the title he so badly wanted to win for it. You had Draymond Green have the game of his life in Game 7. And then you had the 3 isolated plays by the big 3 of the Cavaliers team. You had the chase down block by LeBron on Andre Iguodala, which, by the way, apparently people go up to Iguodala's kids in school and say, block by James.
And Mike Breen actually came out with an interview, I want to say earlier this week, and said that is still his favorite call in the history of calling the finals, was that play.
And then you had the dagger heard all around Northeast Ohio when Kyrie Irving hits a step back 3 over Steph Curry. And then you have, as Richard Jefferson called it on his show earlier this week, the craziest movement of size 18s he's ever seen. When Kevin Love played the best defense of his career on Steph Curry to force a miss. Of course, LeBron sinks the free throw to ice it, as OG Anunoby did just a few days ago for the Knicks. And a 52-year drought of any professional championship was ended. And Jim, I know where I was that night. I know where I was when it went 0-0. And you and I have been doing this show since I had John shortly post-pandemic, right?
Yes.
It was like because Bobby, yeah. I couldn't speak. When that went 0-0, I could not speak. It was also, by the way, 10 years since my wife's watched a basketball game.
Well, let's do this. Sorry to interrupt. This is actually what I was hoping for with this segment. I want you to share your experience of that night, what you did in the aftermath, who was the first person you called or reacted with. I'll do mine, and then I've got a very special shout out that somebody sent me just before we went live on top of that. But Mike, go ahead and start us off tonight.
I was sitting on my couch, my love seat, and I was in upstate New York. It was even pre-Big Reek, and that's how long ago this was. And we sat down, and Steph sat with me the whole time. Did she watch every second of it? No, she didn't. But she was there with me. She did contribute calling Steph Curry a little bitch about 4 times in that game. I think once a quarter she hit that, which is about right with him. When Kyrie hit the shot, I had to be reminded I lived in an apartment complex. It was Sunday night at almost 11:30 at night. Fair. When LeBron chased down Iguodala, I didn't care that I was being that loud. It didn't bother me. When Kevin Love played the defense, I tensed up. And I'm like, dude, he's going to hit this 3, and this thing's going to overtime, and I'm just going to have to fall up. Just kill me now. When Steph Curry missed that shot, it didn't matter about the free throws. I knew the minute he missed that shot, we were going to win that championship. And Jim, when it went 0-0, and you heard Mike Breen's call, it's over. Cleveland is a city of champions once again. The Cavaliers are NBA champions. I didn't know what to do. I've been very fortunate in my life. I've lived through the 86 championship with the Mets. I've lived through 3 national titles with Ohio State. This is my favorite championship ever, because of everything that went with it. Believe Land had come out, and they had to reshoot the final segment because they got to Game 7 of the finals.
And then replay it 5 days later.
Yeah. I called my sister. She was blubbering, as was everybody who was at, I want to say they were at her house. she was blubbering, and you could people. I liken it to when the Indians won the first division title when I was in the building. People didn't cheer; they wept. What you saw on TV downtown, and were you able to pull that video, by the way?
I did. I wasn't able to grab it in time.
Okay, that's okay. I had a friend of the show, actually. Jim knows him too, by the name of Vince Costanzo. I went to high school with him. He lives in Salt Lake City. I was wanting him to be on, but he's actually at the Salt Lake City Bees game tonight. He flew home, and he was in the arena for the watch party, which, by the way, if you ever see a video of that, the floor is not there. They had emptied the place out for the coming Republican National Convention.
Yeah, I'm going to say it was the greatest moment that happened in the history of that arena, even more than the Monsters Championship a few days earlier. And it was only a few days before the worst thing to ever happen in that arena.
Yeah, agreed. But to see it. Now, I spent my formative years in Cleveland. I'm not a native Clevelander. It's still home for me. No matter where I hang my hat, I still say, yeah, I'm from Cleveland. I can't imagine what you guys felt. I can't even fathom it. But I felt maybe half of it by winning that title. Because I've been a Cavs fan since the days of Sean Kemp and Bobby Sura and Brevin Knight and Z when he got drafted. That this night was wow. There's 10 years later, there's still no words.
I was actually watching at my best friend Adam Royan's house with our buddy Charlie DeLoro. You remember Charlie?
I remember Charlie.
Fucked up Chuck. We were actually watching a WWE pay-per-view.
Oh, that's right.
Because it was the night that, and I have to actually try. I have to stop myself and remember what his WWE name was. Dean Ambrose. Because now everybody knows him as John Moxley for the last 7 years in AEW, where he cashed in, where Seth Rollins beat Roman Reigns for the WWE title, and then Dean Ambrose cashed in on Money in the Bank on him that night.
That's right.
We actually grabbed his TV from upstairs that was on a stand, thankfully was not mounted on a wall, and drug it downstairs and plugged it in and basically put the Roku on that one so we could put that one up, and then put the game up on the main TV with the cable box on the 50-inch that was mounted above the fireplace in his house in South Euclid. And we originally had the wrestling pay-per-view up on the wall. We had the game up on the small TV, and then right as halftime came and we saw it was 9, then we flipped it. And then as it got closer, we literally shut the audio off on the pay-per-view and didn't really watch or even care at that point. And then eventually, I believe, just actually like had it as background noise. We might have even turned it away to where we couldn't even watch it anymore because we didn't actually want to run the risk of like accidentally disconnecting something to shut the damn thing off. We put the game on in the living room. We saw it was getting closer. I started to get a little bit more confident the later in the game that it went. I believe those guys were a little bit more nervous, and me being the only real sports fan in that house. And his parents were living like 2 blocks away, on the side street there, and they were watching the game at our family friend Tommy's on the corner. So Tommy actually had the TV set up on the deck, so everyone was starting to congregate out there. His cousin Stephanie was out there. His parents were out there. Tommy and his girlfriend were out there. A bunch of family friends had already congregated out there. And I actually say family friends just because Adam, is like they're like second family to Frank and myself.
Oh, absolutely.
So when it's their family friends, it's our family friends because, my dad went to school with all those guys too. When Kyrie hit that, I yelled so loud, and Adam, I don't even know had his screen. I don't know if he had his screen windows in yet. Everyone started reacting to me because I guess we were a couple of seconds ahead of everybody. Some of the houses in the in that little intersection, so to speak. And then they reacted. And then when that clock hit 000, I nearly broke his door, bursting out the front. I jumped off the stairs. And there were 4 of them. I jumped off the stairs into his yard. I might have even like tuck and rolled, into his grass at that point. It was pitch black. I just go running into the middle of the intersection. Thankfully, nobody was driving at that point. And you just heard a scream come from everybody's house. And then you started to see a few people trickle out of their houses a little bit further down. We're shouting each other out. We're pointing at each other. We're going nuts. We immediately run over to Tommy's place. We jump up on the deck. We're congratulating everyone. Adam and Charlie decide they're going to get in the car and they're just going to drive. And they're just going to drive around the neighborhood. I spent the next 20 minutes straight, even during the trophy presentation, LeBron's speech, Cleveland, this is for you, sitting on Tommy's deck on one of the benches, bawling, being consoled by his cousin Stephanie.
There were tears involved in mine as well. Mostly, let me see if I get this right. Yeah, Stipe had won the heavyweight championship, a month earlier, end of May?
Yeah, somewhere in there. Yeah.
April, May. You have the Monsters win the Calder Cup a few weeks before that. Jim, I'm going to say this, and it's probably going to sound weird, but I think you'll understand where I'm coming from. Even if this didn't happen and the Indians would have won 3 months later, it wouldn't have been as special because there was nobody from there on the roster. This was more special because this was our guy.
I'm going to respectfully disagree with that because
let me not say not as special. It would have been a lot different.
I honestly think it might have meant a little bit more because the Cavs have never been there. And yeah, the Cavs would have broken it, but the Cavs have always been third in this town because it's always been a baseball town and a Browns town more than anything. I think the Indians winning the World Series would have probably eclipsed what the Cavs did because of how close they had come. The Cavs had only been to the finals twice and got run off the floor in both of those. Remember, the year before they went out in 5 because they were all busted up. They got swept in 07. The Indians had been to Game 7 twice in less than 10 years before that.
That's true. Dude, even today, like I've been watching videos all day of people in their homes.
Stipe's title was May 14th. So it was 6 weeks. It was almost a month earlier. Just over a month earlier, about 5 weeks.
Okay, because it was only a few weeks. It was a few weeks after the convention that he defended for the first time in Cleveland.
Right, against Francis Ngannou. Yep.
He whooped Ngannou's ass that night.
I'm sorry, that was against Alistair Overeem because Overeem, I remember Stipe choked out Overeem and Overeem said, "I didn't tap." And they booed him out of the building, if you remember.
I do remember.
Because I think who else was on that card?
Holly Holm was on that card.
That was the UFC debut of one Phillip Brooks.
CM Punk, that's right. He got his ass handed to him. Were him and AJ married already?
No.
Oh, okay.
Actually, they might have been because I think he actually got fired on his wedding day after he had already walked out.
That's right.
Because he didn't do UFC until after he got fired. Yeah. Yeah, they were already married.
I mean, I sat here and I'm watching the videos today, and of the older people who who lived in Cleveland their whole lives. I tell you what, Uncle Rizzo is very full front in the front of my mind with this championship. Of course, how we're going to close the segment is more in the front of my mind with that. But to see it happen, and then you get the videos from the next day when they fly home, which was just, what was it, 25,000 people at the airport?
He's at Hopkins, absolutely. And remember, it was hotter than shit here in Cleveland that day.
Yeah, it was. And then the parade, I didn't know you could fit that many people in downtown.
J.R. Smith stepped off the plane without a shirt because not only had he been partying in Vegas the day before, it was 90 degrees when they touched down at 11 a.m. that morning.
Those were his game shorts. They were still his game shorts in the parade. Ew. And then of course you get the parade that every Cleveland fan had waited their whole life for.
Well,
I didn't know.
I'm gonna interrupt, and I'm gonna circle back for a moment. Yeah,
circle back.
Yeah, because after they hoisted the trophy and everything, Adam and Charlie end up coming back, and we had to ask, what was it like? He's like, it was pandemonium. People were stopping their cars in the middle of the street on Mayfield Road, just partying. Granted, everything was closed by then. Even the Marco's Pizza at the end of the street closed up. By then, because it was after 11 o'clock on a Sunday night. And he just said everyone was high-fiving. I go to leave about an hour later. It's about 12:15. I've got the radio on. I'm listening to the sports talk and everything. I'm driving down Mayfield Road, and I'm in, granted, it's about an hour later. A lot of people have kind of calmed down, but there's still a bunch of people walking out, younger people and everything. Naturally, they don't have to go to work the next day. I did. And I'm having people at stoplights and stop signs reach into my car, high five me. I got girls coming around to the other end of the car, just randomly hugging me and kissing me on the cheek that I've never met before, just because of how great this was.
I talked about, because I wasn't there for that, and I could not get home for that. And of course, I couldn't get home for the parade. I would have loved to. I can tell you the first thing I did after I got the phone with my sister was order that. Yes, that is the locker room hat given to the players. I was on Fanatics within 20 minutes of the trophy presentation. Because Jim, did it not seem real until he held it? Until you heard Adam Silver say it and hand them to Larry O'Brien?
For me, I think it actually felt real when for me personally, and I don't want to even say it's because of being from here and everything along with that. I think it felt real when the shot of him collapsing to the floor with his forearm over his face, and Mo Williams patting him on the back because of how long, because remember, Mo was his right-hand man for the first few years after Drew Gooden and Carlos Boozer had left, and then came back for one last run. And just Mo, slapping him on the back and everything. And the one thing I'm still wondering about, and I never got a legitimate answer from it I've ever seen, you've sent me his interviews all week. Where the fuck was Richard Jefferson running when the clock hit 000? Because I don't even know if he knows.
I don't think he knows either.
It's like you saw this wine gold and black version of the Flash taking off to the other end of the floor, and you had no idea where he was going. And
he was trying to do what LeBron did when he made the block.
And you didn't even hear about, and you didn't even see him again until the until the stage came out. He
went running.
Gone.
He took off running. Remember, Jefferson had lost in the finals two or 3 years in a row with the Nets.
Yeah.
And they hadn't been back there. I don't know if you remember this, after the game when Allie Clifton was in there with Fred, and Fred was sitting. Of course, Fred talked to our.
That's right. Allie was
with
them
at the
before
picture,
she went national.
If you look at the picture with John Michael, when he's standing there, there's a female next to him and another guy. That's Allie Clifton. So Allie's in there with John because she was the third person for the radio broadcast.
Mm-hmm.
Fred is in the locker room. I don't know if you remember this. RJ said he was done. He was hanging him up. And Fred and Channing talked him into coming back.
Yep.
For 2017. For 16-17. And I love that dude. I love that dude. So we get to the parade, Jim. And everybody's got a story about the parade. I watched a good chunk of it from my job. I was actually the only one in the office that day, which is why I couldn't come out to see it. So I watched the live stream on my phone, the entire parade. Friend of the show, Mr. Nick Creedes, who worked for the company that was emptying out the arena for the RNC. He was there for work, and then his boss looked at me and goes, "What in the hell are you doing here? Go watch the parade. We may not ever see this again," or something to that effect. So he goes out and he sees down the road 2 gentlemen are selling T-shirts or giving out T-shirts. And him and another work buddy go flying down. And when they get there, they realize who it is. And who it is Cleveland and legend Charles Oakley and Shannon Sharp. So Oak and Shannon Sharp are giving out T-shirts. And Nick yells, he goes, "Hey, Oak, I hear Chuck's getting off the plane to come to the parade. You going to go pick him up?" Of course, referencing Barkley. Oakley turns around, won't look at him again. Shannon Sharp is laughing so hard he can't stand up. So Nick's got a picture of Shannon Sharp on his phone, giving him the deuces, and Oakley won't even look at him. I loved when they pulled Ernest Biner on a Ty Lue's vehicle.
Yes, which was actually shown in the Believe Land documentary that they went back and recut. That was for every time you watch the Believe Land 30 for 30, Ernest Biner got vilified in this town for so many years after costing the Browns the trip to the Super Bowl. And people forget, he was the reason that they were in that position in the second half, because they were getting their doors blown off at halftime of that game in Denver. And
he was insane.
For him to be basically never having won a ring himself, for him to be a part of that, and just everyone for really at that point had forgiven him. Because remember, when they went to Baltimore, he did not want to go with them. I believe he outright refused and opted for free agency or asked for a release or something like that.
No, he asked for his release. I remember that.
And I mean, it was absolutely the right thing to do. And then with that parade, and I actually have 2 quick stories to share along with this, along with you continuing your parade here. But Stipe with the belt there, Ernest Biner there, the fact that the Cavs incorporated everybody into that. They brought up some of the Indians that never actually got the chance to go, that didn't actually win the series. They brought up, I think, Charles Nagy and Kenny Lofton were on one of the floats. They had, Cavs legends that came back in town for this. The Monsters had their own float. Breaking news, congratulations to the Toronto Marlies, the AHL affiliate of the Toronto Maple Leafs, who won the 2026 Calder Cup tonight in 5 games over Chicago. So finally Toronto won something in hockey for a change.
Well, speaking of hockey, The PWHL's team, is it Vancouver or the Golden Eyes, like the fucking Bond movie?
Yeah, that's what they were named last year. I don't remember. I think it's something about like a bird native to their area. But also, did you see who their draft pick was?
No, I didn't.
I take that back. San Jose, 4th overall, Layla Edwards.
You know what, San Jose, I did see Layla went 4th overall. But back to the fact that there is a hockey team named after my favorite Bond movie. If their mascot ought to be Famke Janssen as Xenia Onatopp. Just leaving that there. Just leaving that there.
Okay. Can we not do that right now?
You know, that's a goal of mine. Is for you to do that. So, Jim, as I mentioned,
I was right. The team is named after a common goldeneye, a diving duck endemic to North America, including along the coastal waters and lakes of British Columbia.
Still, no offense to the Ducks, quack quack. That Pierce Brosnan should be dropping a puck at one of these games. What? But Jim, you're on the ground for the parade. You weren't downtown, were you?
No, Adam was though, and he actually said it took them about 5 hours to get home.
I know one person, and I can't remember the name, that I knew in South Euclid who took his recliner from his home and put it on the parade route. I remember seeing pictures of South Euclid Mayor Georgine Wheelo at the parade. Of course, Georgine, who lived 2 streets over from me in South Euclid growing up. It seemed every celebrity who was from Cleveland came home for it. There was a piece of every team that almost got there.
Yep.
That was there.
Drew Carey was there because I think Drew Carey was hosting the Price is Right at that time. He came home. Arsenio Hall was on one of the floats.
Michael, the Iron Chef. What the hell?
Michael Simon.
Michael Simon did the show in New York that day in full Cavs uniform with this hat on.
Yep. Who was the trivia question? This one might be a little bit easier. Who was the first person to wear the cap that you're wearing?
Fuck. It wasn't LeBron. Was it Channing?
Ahmad at the watch party.
Oh.
Because they hadn't handed out the T-shirts yet, because he was in the arena at the watch party and had it on, pumping up the crowd and everything before they went back to the ESPN feed.
Jesus.
So just a couple of visual aids that I have that were from that season. I did end up going to, let me turn the, so I did end up going to a game that season that was,
against the Pelicans.
They ended up.
You Phil for a second. I got something for you too.
Remember Fathead?
Yes.
I still have not put this up, but everything on here can be peeled off.
Yeah, I remember those. Phil for a second. I got something for you.
And then came the Cleveland Plain Dealer. When they won the Eastern, the Plain Dealer Special Edition after the morning after they won the East and were on their way to the finals. I don't have any official Cavs championship merchandise. This is as close as I got. Mike, when you come back, I definitely want you to see these.
So you got to forgive me for one thing, Jim. This was sent to me from my parents. They found it at Ollie's.
Yep.
So I have the book, the official Plain Dealer book from that entire season. Yes, that is the Ollie's price tag right on the top there. I do apologize. But the front page is LeBron with the trophy, and then of course the back is him with Delhi, and
the morning after the return. That was July 12th.
I have that too.
2014.
I have that one too.
I put this one up while you were away. And this is the first time I think I've taken these out of my closet in about 10 years. So that was May 27th, 2016, the night after this was the day after they won the East. Next, we go to here it is.
Hey, here's this one.
This was the sports page from the day after. So the Tribe had actually had a sweep. This was June 20th. This was the front page of the Cleveland Plain Dealer sports section. You notice that there's nothing really on here about the Cavs because they had their own special section. And here's the front page of the entire Plain Dealer.
Unreal. Just
every newsstand in 20 miles was sold out of this, and I actually got this from my grandmother who was still getting home delivery at that point, and she actually asked the neighbor who was going to get rid of their paper if she could take their paper so she could have a copy. And then the special section.
I was just going to say, there's the front of the special section in the book.
Yep. God, I can even smell the ink on this still. And
I won't pull it out.
The championship merchandise from Dick's.
They didn't make the locker room t-shirt in big guy size, which is why I have this one that I got off Fanatics. And you see how it's all messed up here?
Mm-hmm.
I wore this to Gettysburg the day we went to the battlefield, and I sweat so bad it went through this and my red Cavs hat and ruined them both.
I still kept the comics section. I filled out the Sudoku. I started half the crossword puzzle and never got around to finishing it.
What was Doonesbury that day?
On the inside somewhere.
Unreal.
Speed Bump, which was like their version of the Far Side. On the inside still had TV listings.
Oh, Jesus.
Family Circus, Marmaduke, Bizarro.
Marmaduke.
Dear Abby, Horoscope. Oh, June 20th. Happy birthday, Brian Wilson, Nicole Kidman, and I don't know who that is. The answers to the Sudoku and the crossword are on the inside. What was on TV? The Bachelorette, American Ninja Warrior. Rizzoli and Isles was still on TV.
Jeez.
And then there was the parade. As I mentioned, it took my best friend about 5 hours to get out of downtown that night. And what's this? Never mind. My mother found this, and I don't know how well this is actually going to show up. But she actually got me because I wasn't there and she worked downtown. I've never shown you this, and where the hell is it? She actually pulled me a piece of the confetti from the parade.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So my mother was working downtown in the Federal Building on 9th and Euclid at the time. And they let a lot of people out early that day because the crowds were developing to where any of the businesses you couldn't get in or out of them. And it was, I don't want to say it was becoming unsafe, but my mother does not do well in big crowds. Um, and she's nearly having like, she calls me later that night after she got home. It took her like 35 minutes to make typically a 10-minute walk from where she was to Tower City to be able to catch the to be able to catch the mass transit train back to her car parked on the east side of Cleveland. Um and she would she's trying to get through the crowd, and it's like 4 or 5 people deep at this point. It hadn't fully grown yet. Um and the parade hadn't even started. We all know that the parade started like 2 hours late
Yeah.
at that point because of just the size of the crowd. And she's freaking out because she's not, she's really not sure where she's going. And then eventually she does get through the crowd and kind of stands up on like a median, where like, planners or things are, somewhere down Euclid Avenue. And she just looks and then she just takes it all in. She's like, this is actually really fucking cool.
Yeah.
I don't know when or if we're ever going to see this again, but she just took it all in. She grabbed me a piece of that confetti. It was just really, really cool at that point. And one more story I actually want to share. This was actually sent to me, and I've got a very, very special shout out here as I've got something on my camera for a moment. And let me turn my blur back on, but then again, I can do that here in a second. This was actually sent to me just a few minutes before we came on tonight. And I'm going to read this verbatim. I was in Lakewood at the Hairy Buffalo near Around the Corner, a famous bar on the west side of Cleveland, and it was jam packed. Everybody was jumping up and down for the last 25 seconds. All you could hear, and you could hear the roaring from the other bars across the street who may have had the broadcast about 10 seconds ahead. I jumped up on top of the bar and started jumping on the bar with my hands up, and everybody was going fucking nuts. There were other people getting on the bar, and then the owner looked at me and told me to get down, but it was such a great fucking time. I lived in Lakewood across from Kenilworth, so we were giving high fives to everybody coming down Detroit Avenue because they closed I-90 off. I-90 being the major freeway that connects the east and west sides of downtown Cleveland. It was 5 miles an hour all the way down Detroit until 5 a.m. Cars were beeping all the way down. People were slow rolling Detroit Road, hanging out the windows, sitting on the hoods of their cars. It was crazy, man. Then went down to the parade with a group of 25 people. We walked from the Harp off the Shoreway to downtown. It was a crazy day. Lost half of our group within the first 15 minutes of being downtown. That comes from a young man. I can't even say young man. His name is Sean Nowak. That is my cousin. And I want to send a very, very special congratulations. Earlier this week, Sean became a father for the first time.
Oh, congratulations
to him and Kelsey. I just found out 2 hours before we went on tonight.
That's awesome.
Congratulations, Sean and Kelsey. And thank you very much, cuz, for sending that to me. I love you guys. I can't wait to meet the little one.
That is amazing.
Which, ironically enough, both of his sisters are pregnant and are expected to pop within the next 30 days. So I've got a lot of cousins I'm going to be meeting soon.
Yeah, you are.
Are they cousins or are they my nephews at this point? Because they're kids of cousins.
Usually when you get to that realm, it's uncle or aunt, depending on who you are. Yeah, I think that's how that'll go. But let me tell you my favorite part of Parade Day. It wasn't Kevin Love with the championship belt, which was amazing. It
Both
wasn't. Yeah.
Because remember, he had the Cavs belt and he had the Smoking Skull belt.
Yes, he did. It wasn't JR and Kyrie jumping off the cars and walking through the crowd. LeBron's speech at the rally when he gave every single player their flowers,
including probably I want to say I heard an unconfirmed report that either he or Dan Gilbert ended up paying the FCC fines to the local stations for the F-bombs that he dropped when he was talking
Yep.
about Mozgov and some of the other guys.
Oh yeah, because that was when he'd said when they got Timo, David Griffin said to him, "That's a big motherfucker, isn't he?"
Yep.
But it wasn't. It was how he talked about every single guy, and it made you realize, yeah, he wore the C on his chest or the cape or however you want to put it. There is not a single player on that roster that did not contribute somehow. I thought that was amazing. And then the fact that to end it, Jim Brown handed him the trophy to show to the fans.
Yep. Because if you got to be honest, I want to say when you go back to the parade, outside of the Monsters, Jim Brown, I think, was the only other person there who had won a major championship at the highest level that was on one of those floats.
Yeah, he was.
And he was actually the last one to hold one.
Yeah. The shot of LeBron doing the banner when his kids urged him to do it. But my favorite moment from the parade itself was none of that. It was when Bronny started throwing out Beats headphones at people and Bron smacked his hand and told him to knock it off. Like, okay, we're going to be dead during this thing. That's amazing.
That was eerily reminiscent for me when the Blues won the championship, where all the players had jumped off of their floats and were literally running up and down Market Street in downtown St. Louis, high-fiving the fans and like spraying them with beer because Anheuser-Busch's, main facility is in St. Louis. So they had all the Bud Light that they could want, just carrying the cup and literally running up and down Market Street, holding the Stanley Cup.
I mean, obviously we didn't get that with Larry O'Brien, but I mean, it's even to think about it now. Like I said, I've been watching the videos for the last few days, really, since Richard started dropping all the episodes during the finals. The one Channing did talking about it, and then you see things like we were talking about before we went on the air. These guys are on a 10-year reunion trip.
Yeah,
mind you, LeBron's still playing, but they're on a 10-year reunion trip. Kyrie is still playing. Oh, he's not there.
Think about it. I think those are the only two. Let's think about this. RJ's in broadcasting. JR's retired. Shump's retired. Kevin's active, but he hasn't really been for
Kevin played
really
this year.
a year and a half now.
Yeah, he's been the back end of the bench guy on a couple of different teams. But first of all, I don't know if you saw the trip started in Europe. They went golfing in Scotland. The clowning off the charts. Apparently, we're
going to talk about Scotland here in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, we are. So, and by the way, your question before, unless you need to stop, let's just buzz through it.
Yeah.
Excuse me. The clowning, insanity. I found out watching the Richard Jefferson thing, they have 2 group chats with that team. The first one is all inclusive. The second one is because Tristan just likes to fuck up all the time. Hilarious. These guys still go every day and talk to each other and do all this. And it's amazing to see, especially in a place that is so close knit as Cleveland is to the people who live there and love it. You feel like you said, you random women kissing you on the street, high-fiving you, guys high-fiving you. You don't see that anywhere else. Cleveland's championship was very Cleveland. We were counted out. No way they're going to do this. They can't do this. And then they just come out swinging.
It was,
and they get it done.
if you go back and watch Believe Land, it's like what Tony Rizzo said. 86, they had with the Browns, they had the best record in the AFC. They hosted the championship game, and then Elway became Elway in Brown Stadium. They were expected to, they had all the momentum, and they were 2 yards short of getting there in the following year in 87. They were expected to go. This was a team that was down on the mat. They had everybody healthy, and they were getting the same result from the year before, and nobody gave them a shot. When they got to the World, so when the Guardians or the Indians got to the World Series in later that year against the Cubs, they were in the driver's seat, and then the Trevor Bauer thing happened, and it shifted the whole dichotomy of the series. But that was a very even series because of how closely those teams were matched. Should they have beaten the Cubs? Absolutely. Was it any surprise that they lost after the Trevor Bauer thing? Absolutely not.
I thought the Bauer thing was in the LCS. The draw was the
remember, he had it, and then he actually was supposed to pitch in one of those games and then reopen the cut and had to be yanked.
Oh, that's right. It was game 2.
Yep.
Because Klubot went 1-4-7.
Yep.
And was dominant in the first 2 and then got lit up in the third one. I mean, and then you go to the ring ceremony, and it's the night of game 1.
Yeah.
You had
where even
NBA...
LeBron says, to our boys opening the World Series across the street.
I have that saved on my YouTube list as well. I have the final 339 of game 7. I have the ring ceremony. Unreal. Just that whole year. Think about it, starting in 15 or in 14. LeBron comes back in July. I know it's regional, but most people who are there are fans. Bucks win a championship in 15. Cavs get to the finals in 15. Cavs win the title in 16. Indians get to the World Series in 16. I mean, and 17 and 18, the finals again are in Cleveland. Was it 17 or 18? The Indians won 22 in a row? 18, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
19, they host the All-Star game. That 5-year run in Cleveland.
And then in 20, with the Browns getting to the playoffs in the pandemic.
Exactly. So you had a 5-6 year run,
season of dreams. Yeah.
In Northeast Ohio, where it was basically the epicenter of sports. I mean, you hear about New York does that, at LA, Miami, every blue moon. This was every major team in that city making a run at a championship. One getting it done, one falling short because of a rain delay, and a third falling short because of a bitch call.
Yeah.
But you and I could go for hours on this, and I think the only way to sum it up, Jim, do we do that now or when we go? I say we do it now to put a bow on this.
Yeah, let's do it now.
There's only one way to end this, and it's this way.
Video courtesy of ESPN. I'm sorry, of ESPN and Fox Sports Ohio, the now FanDuel Sports Ohio.
6.5 left, burning 4 precious seconds. Curry, they'll give you 3. No, rebound. Morey Spates. Good night, Oakland. It's over. The 52-year drought is over. It's over. The Cavaliers have won the NBA championship. Everybody stand up and cheer. It's over for 54 years. Never.
The John Michael call gives you goosebumps every time. The Fred call gives you pause.
And if you think about it and go back and watch the Believe Land documentary on ESPN, just I keep going back to it, but you know, Jim Donovan's gone
Oh,
since that came out. Marty Schottenheimer's gone since that came out. They talked to Casey Coleman on that one. Neff Chandler's gone.
Jim
Dick
Brown.
Shanley with all the Jim Brown's gone. Yeah, just some Cleveland icons, both in in sport and in media, that Clevelanders have lost really since that documentary aired. You know, just shy of 10 years ago. I believe I believe they shot the parade a couple of days later, and then within 3 or 4 days rebroadcast it in its entirety with the bonus footage.
Yeah, because it came out right before the finals.
Yes.
And then they went back and shot it again. Scott Rabb, the journalist who wrote The Whore of Akron, very famously, they followed him around, him and his son, and they were at the party him and his son were at. But his reaction was everybody's reaction in Cleveland that night. You didn't, you cheered, you screamed, you yelled, but you cried. And it was, think about it. The fumble, the drive, the ninth inning,
the shot,
it's all gone.
Arsenio said it on the documentary, and I hate to keep going back to it because of how soon I watch it. It's like if you search, basketball shot, it's going to say, it's going to say the and something associated with Cleveland in our darkest period. And it's like we were tired of being the punchline, the shot, the drive, the fumble, the choke,
Mm-hmm. I mean, and the thing is, it's gone. Those are just footnotes now.
Yeah.
Yes, it's been 10 years, but here's the thing about, and I think we should put a bow on this way. We're 10 years removed. Since that happened, LeBron has left again. This time we all knew it was going to happen. Management knew it was going to happen. It seemed like he told them he was going to go.
And we were fine with it, actually.
And we were fine with it this time because it wasn't a spectacle as was the decision. Because remember, no one was pissed he left. Everyone was pissed he made it a spectacle. Way injured decision. The way he did it injured that decision more than if he would have done the big write-up and said, hey, this is where my career is taking me. Cleveland's home. Professionally, I'm going here. When you made it a spectacle and held everybody hostage, that's what pissed more people off than anything else.
Here's my question.
Okay.
And we'll finish up the segment here. When he gets his statue outside Nomo, Romo, Fijo, Rocket Arena, Quicken Loans Arena, Gund Arena, whatever the hell you want to call it, what is it? Is it him holding the trophy? Is it him basically posing, Cleveland, this is for you? Is it the chase down? Is it him, setting up for the free throws that iced it? What's the statue of him going to be when they eventually erect that after he retires in the next year or so, whether he comes back or not?
It's the thing that hung over Cleveland for 11 years. It is a bronze statue of that banner. But on the jersey,
that's a good point.
But on the jersey, you put the championship logo like they did on the banner the year after.
No, because that's actually a caricature. Oh, Brooke Shields in a Hallmark movie mystery. Didn't see that one.
I tell you what, though, Jim, get this picture blown up someday.
Oh, I mean, you got to figure something like that's already got to be inside the arena or something. I haven't been to a game in a couple of years, and God knows, what they. I wonder if they're going to actually do something. Then again, they would have done that this year to commemorate the 10-year, but maybe something early next season because of how far they progressed through the playoffs this year, despite the fact that they shit the bed in the conference finals.
I think you'll see something bigger for 15 years only because he'll definitely be retired by then.
Oh yeah. I mean, you know what? I mean, raises. I mean, do they actually do the Gretzky rule and basically waive it to where he can walk into the Hall of Fame the minute he retires? Or do you make him actually wait the 3 years or 5 years or whatever it is? You know that they're already going to be planning something to put his name up in the rafters, not only there, but in Staples Center and also in Miami the day he retires. They're going to be starting to schedule something for that season.
Yeah, and I think that those other two organizations need to let the Cleveland thing happen first.
I think maybe let it happen last just because it's also, um, do you dedicate the court to him? Number one, when that happens, and number two, you got to be nice to him, and you don't want to try to push the issue because he might actually take his TV back home with him.
True.
The humongotron.
Do you know what I think they should do? Bronze the letter and put the letter on the statue. Before anyone cared where I would play basketball, I was a kid from Northeast Ohio. It's where I walked. It's where I bled. It's where I ran. That whole thing.
The plaque on the base.
On the bottom.
Yes. Yes. I like that.
Yeah. Because just the dude, look.
Yeah. Even if you don't do the whole thing, because it was like 3 or 4 pages or something.
You have to put the final line. In
Yeah.
Northeast Ohio, nothing is given. Everything is earned. Just the whole thing that ends with "I'm coming home."
Yeah.
And that's how.
And as much as you hate him, that's the one lasting memory I'm actually going to have of his second run here, possibly even more than the championship. Was listening to Aaron Goldhammer read that on the air and crying.
I have that on here too.
On local radio, it got picked up nationally.
I have that on here too on my YouTube when him and Casey Koulis broke the news that he was coming back.
Yep. Yeah, it's because Adam was good friend. Adam and my brother were good friends with Casey, and now Casey still works for the Cavs after leaving ESPN Cleveland Radio. And just listening to Casey, like listening to the breaking news, and Casey Koulis going, "Is that really happening? Is that thing real?"
Yes.
I need to go watch that segment again after we're done tonight. But Michael, we're going to wrap up a little bit tonight with our usual spectacle here. So, tip our cap to 10 years. Hopefully we're not waiting 10 more for another one. But I mean, this shirt may not be relevant by the time we're talking about it again later this summer. With the rumor of one or possibly both of them getting moved. But we'll see about that. I think also if Jared Allen does get moved, the one person who's going to be more upset than anybody else is going to be Serena Winters, because there goes her fist bump, buddy.
Jeez.
What a class guy he is. I would hate to see him moved. I understand what they could actually possibly want to do with that, but that's something we'll discuss during, when free agency comes up, because I don't know if something's going to happen day one with that. But Michael,
hey, in case you haven't noticed, and judging by the attendance, you haven't.
Yes.
We have some finality, and we've actually got, something other than basketball and hockey to talk about for a change tonight. So
it's been a minute.
4 days after legislation from a Texas judge granting him eligibility, Brendan Sorsby decides I'm going to go enter the NFL supplemental draft for this summer and basically and sign with an agent. And he's no longer with Texas Tech after all the threats that were coming out. And they, the Big 12 threatening to actually suspend him and go against the judge's orders. Now comes the $64,000 question. Where's he going? And because I could honestly make an argument that even with all the off-field trouble with the gambling, I could actually think that there could be some truth to the fact that all 32 teams are going to express interest in him at some capacity. I guess like 24 teams went to his pro day and the other 8 made phone calls.
Jim, he's a scumbag who got away with something illegal in Texas. Where do you think he's going to land?
You would think, but those two teams, I mean, possibly Houston but then again, they may actually try to ride one more year with CJ Stroud, but they're honestly not going to put him behind Dak Prescott with that contract.
Think about what I said. Dirtbag from Texas. Legal system in Texas bailed him out. Where's he going?
Do you really want that headache here for another year or possibly that media circus that goes along with it? Although there are some rumors going around that the Cleveland Browns could be offering a second round pick for him with that supplemental draft.
Listen.
And it might be and quite honestly, they may not lose anything because I think it's going to be one of the second round picks that they picked up with that trade. With one of their recent trades, one of their recent draft trades.
I'm not saying they're going to or they're not. But if you think about the way the world works, he's going to be a fucking Brown.
The fact that he also played at Cincinnati, so he's familiar with the area.
Who apparently could be in some serious trouble with this. Because he was betting both years he was a starter at Cincinnati. Cincinnati may have some problems.
Yeah, it's there's talk that could the Bengals possibly do something to be able to get a backup for Joe Burrow because they're not sure how much longer he's going to be able to play with his injury history. You look at it, there's not a whole lot of established quarterbacks. If he didn't, Michael, we have to be honest, as good as this year's quarterback class looks and as bad as last year's looked, and we now can actually say last year because the new calendar year has started in the NFL, since we're already into free agency, trade situations, offseason OTAs, training camps open in 6 weeks, Mike.
I want to talk about it too. It's too fast.
But could he possibly have been a first round pick, a first or maybe second round pick last year instead of only 2 going?
No, I don't think he would have been. I honestly don't think he would have been. He was good. However, I think the quarterbacks who went in the first round were predestined. As dumb as this sounds, you have the number 1 overall pick, the Heisman Trophy winner, the national champion, the undefeated Fernando Mendoza. And with Ty Simpson, as far as we get farther away from that, and now with the Myles Garrett trade, Jim, Ty Simpson is built like, has the same kind of arm strength as Matthew Stafford. I mean, if you look at Stafford's tape coming out of Georgia, that's why they got him.
It's not looking like as much of a reach, but is it also really within the possibility of saying for all the drop off that we had and no other, real legitimate quarterbacks picked until the 3rd round with like Drew Aller at that point, in terms of guys that were up on tier lists. Could Brendan Sorsby have been the 3rd best quarterback in this draft that didn't actually go in the draft and now could be in the supplemental? Could he be the 3rd best quarterback to come out of this class?
Well, look, I will say this. The last time the Browns took a quarterback in the supplemental draft, if I'm not mistaken, he was pretty damn good. That was Bernie Kosar.
Yep.
So remains to be seen. I just honestly believe that, number one, he is going to have the Hawkeyes of the NFL on him from the moment he steps onto the field.
Oh yeah,
or steps into the league. I think and with what was going down, and by the way, the Big 12 was going to sue them after Ken Paxton wrote a letter in or a release in support of that decision. The Big 12 found the loophole that bang, now they can go get them. And listen, Texas Tech, you've had one good quarterback your entire existence. Don't blow your any prestige you got over this kid.
Well, let's also be honest. They've had some good quarterbacks, but they've only had one that really kind of translated to the pro level.
Yeah, and he's in the GO conversation.
Yeah, he's already number 2, and a little bit of retooling, he can definitely put himself back into that 1A conversation.
Yeah. I think if he wins one more, you got to start thinking he is, because he hasn't had top 5 defenses, nor has he had, scandal. Outside of sounding like Kermit.
That's true.
Hey, speaking of them, did you see the big garage beer sign at Heights High?
Why?
It's their 100th anniversary.
Yeah, but also think of who's a managing partner with them.
Oh, it's Jason. God knows. But let's get to the second part of this, because it's that time. It's Father's Day weekend, which means there can only be one other thing going on.
Yep. In the at Shinnecock Hills, save your Snickers. The U.S. Open ongoing, and Will Clark Wyndham Clark. It's only Friday. We're going into the weekend. Saturday is always moving day. He's got a 4-shot lead, and I believe he set the 36-hole record at the U.S. Open. He's sitting at 7 under. He's up on Xander Schauffele, Tom Kim, Sam Stevens, and Matt Fitzpatrick, and former major champion Colin Morikawa sitting 5 back. Wyndham Clark and Xander Schauffele in the featured pairing tomorrow is going to be very, very entertaining, Michael.
Oh, agreed. I usually don't pick up the U.S. Open until Saturdays. Mostly because, Thursday, Friday is tough with work and whatnot, but Saturday, Sunday, the U.S. Open is just something special. Even historically, you have Payne Stewart winning his second U.S. Open and saying to Phil Mickelson, go be a dad, you'll get one of these. You have Tiger's run at Pebble in 2000. Then you have his run in 2008 on one leg against still my favorite player, Rocco Mediate. Weren't they only like 1 under in that tournament?
Yeah. It's and keep in mind, Wyndham Clark, par 70, shot a 69 today, 1 under for his round, and Schauffele shot a 66 4 under and is still 4 back.
What, did Schauffele blow up in round 1?
Schauffele shot a 1 over 71. A low round of the day today belonged to Morikawa, who shot 5 under to get himself to 2 under after having a porous +3. But then again, we all know with the U.S. Open, the cut line is +4.
Jeez. It's they don't do anything to these courses for a month and then
pretty
just
much
cut some grass and then the rest of it's
right. When you look at the back end of the leaderboard, Jordan Spieth +3, Dustin Johnson +3, and it's also Dustin Johnson's last year of eligibility. I should say of exemption, because he won his 10 years ago, and then made the jump to live, and then ended up coming back. Or I'm sorry, he's got an exemption from there. He's going to have to force his way back onto the tour. Hideki Matsuyama 4 over. Some of the guys that missed the cut. Victor Hovland, who's finished very close in majors recently. Billy Horschel missed the cut. Patrick Reed, the live player, missed the cut. Ricky Fowler missed the cut. Bryson DeChambeau missed the cut. Cam Smith, Patrick Cantley, Shane Lowry, John Rahm missed the cut. John Rahm shot 78 today.
Wow.
Yeah, few others in here. Adam Scott went 73, 75, missed the cut. Wasn't even close. See if there's a couple more. Brooks Koepka, 73, 77, missed the cut. Former major champion Padraig Harrington, he's only got a couple of years left in his career. Graham McDowell missed the cut. Jason Day shot a 46 on the front nine yesterday and then withdrew. So yeah, I mean, you notice a lot of those names that I mentioned were some live guys, and I wasn't doing that on purpose because those were some of the major names that outright missed the cut line today. Some other guys that might still be within striking distance. We talked about Justin Thomas, 1 under. Scotty Scheffler sitting at even after shooting 68 today, 72 yesterday. Rory's sitting at even par, shot 1 over today. Justin Rose sitting at 1 over, needs some work. Tommy Fleetwood, Keegan Bradley 1 over. Ludwig Ahlberg, 1 over after his narrow run in the Masters. Cam Young 2 over. But again, Saturday, Jordan Spieth 3 over. We talked about a minute ago. Saturday's always moving day. Some of these guys get within, have a good round. Tomorrow they could be right back in there. Let's actually see what Wyndham Clark does. And the U.S. Open typically is always low. It's not low scoring. Like what we're seeing here. We're not used to seeing this many guys, or at least the first 2 pages of the leaderboard, under par. We're usually seeing them hanging right at or just below par. And get it out of your system now while you can, fellas, because the PGA now has announced that they're going to start making rollbacks to reduce the distance on the golf ball by 2030. So good on them, because I'm sick and tired of seeing these courses, either add length or have to expand to be able to keep up with the with the technology. Roll some of the technology back. Make it all about skill rather than the equipment.
Yeah. I mean, it is the most gruesome game if you don't have muscle memory.
Right.
Because if you can't replicate your swing, you're screwed.
Exactly.
As somebody who used to be able to play and can't anymore because of a back injury, it was terrible. But like I said, you said it best. The Saturday's the movie day at the U.S. Open. Let's see if this guy can keep his lead. Let's see who wants to go out and take it from him.
Michael,
did you put soccer on there, James?
I did. We'll talk about it here in just a second, but also from the world of hockey, we'll talk again the major trade that actually happened. When free agency officially gets kicked off with the NHL later on next week. We'll talk about that maybe on next week's show or the week after, because there was a big trade involving the Lightning and the Maple Leafs that we touched on earlier. Jonathan Toews retired today after a long and illustrious career. Not Hall of Fame, but definitely the Hall of Very, Very Good, with over 850 NHL points, played 1,100 games, 2 gold medals, 3 Stanley Cups as the captain of the Chicago Blackhawks, and finished up his career with 1 year with his hometown Winnipeg Jets. Certainly was not a fan of his because he was the captain of those very, very controversial Chicago teams, going back to the Kyle Beach sexual assault issue. Certainly we all know, how much I can't stand Patrick Kane. Arguably, there's Jack Eichel. There's, I'm trying to remember his name, from Washington, Tom Wilson.
Sean Avery.
And then Patrick Kane is right here in terms of my least favorite hockey players right now.
Sean Avery.
Avery was an antagonist. Yeah, it's Tom Wilson. Tom Wilson's an asshole. Yeah, Eichel and Kane we've touched on multiple times on this show, but good on Jonathan Toews. Very classy move by the Blackhawks, putting out a statement for him. I'm not, he would deserve to actually have his jersey retired by the Blackhawks. But again, I don't think with only a little over 850, 860 points, didn't hit 500 goals, didn't hit 400 goals. Um, don't think he's Hall of Fame worthy.
No.
Was captain of some really, really, really great teams for as much as it pains me to say it, being a Blues fan. Chicago still has to go out and win those cups. And he was
Yeah.
one of the big reasons why. But congrats on a very, very good career for Jonathan Taves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So James, you did something I didn't expect, and that is you put the World Cup in our blast for this evening. Why?
Well, first of all, the U.S. has already U.S. is only the second team to officially clinch a spot in the knockout round for the whole 17 people who actually give a shit about soccer in this country. Um, with their orange slices and everything. So, I mean, even if you go to look at you know, the round of 32, they're calling it, but it's like you know, that's almost I mean, how many teams are in this damn thing? Shows you how little I pay attention and care. The US
I
actually
think
has
there's four pools, 4 or 5 teams of pools. 16 to 20 teams are in this tournament.
They have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L. 12 pools. So yeah, there's 48 teams
48
and only
teams?
32 get through to the knockout round. So according to ESPN with the bracket, Mexico has already won their group. The US and I believe Brazil have already clinched their spot in the knockout round. It's just all a matter of seeding at that point. So US has one more game to play before it seems, whether or not they can actually win their group. Mexico is 2-0 in their group. Even with a loss, they would clinch their group. The US right now leads their group at 2-0-0 with a +5 goal differential after beating Australia the other day, even without Puslik. They I can't remember if they beat Paraguay or Turkey earlier. They beat Paraguay 4-1. They beat Australia 2-0. And then they'll actually have and then they've actually got Turkey coming up, I want to say on Monday. Don't quote me on that.
I think so. Yeah,
But,
I think so.
Let's see actually what they do here with that. But Michael, nobody's really paying attention here. I mean, there's some people paying attention to what's going on. A lot of what you and I are paying attention to with the World Cup is what's happening off the pitch.
Yeah, the fans coming here from other countries. First of all, did you see Scotland? Not only did they drink Boston Dry, which is saying something, they're marching through the streets and they have a duck in front of them with the Scottish flag on his back. The duck is waddling in perfect sequence with Roddy Piper's entrance music. There was another guy. What? Am I wrong?
No.
Saying. Scotland's here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and they're
God
all out of bubblegum.
Damn it, you beat me to it.
So, but the Australians, the fucking Australians.
For 3 things. Go ahead, Michael.
Because Aussie boys are on a bender and the orange moron is a sex offender. I got to get the other one. The other one's just as funny. Well, you see, let's see here. The other one was he's fat, he's old, he likes him 12 years old.
You know what that reminds me of?
What's that?
Remember A Knight's Tale?
Yes.
He's young, he's pissed. Liechtenstein. But the other thing that Australia was actually got a lot of feed for, and people were actually, I can't believe there were actually people like asking, who is this? They got a lot of pub for legendary adult film actress Angela White being like front row at one of their opening games in the World Cup. And it's like, so now everyone's paying attention. It's like, okay, Angela White's on US soil. Well, she's here often, filming content or whatever, but she's also a very big sports fan. And, honestly, one of the more down to earth people that you've ever met from a lot of the interviews I've seen with her.
Yeah, she's definitely a regular person who has an irregular job. But I got to tell you, I got to go back and watch the video of the Australia-US game. I need to hear it.
What, the
I need to
chance?
hear it. Oh, God, yes. The other thing, I don't know if you saw this, but the Scots partied so hard in Boston. We talk about they drank them dry. They did an interview with a Boston sanitation worker, and he said, these guys can come here anytime they want. They bagged their garbage. He said it was just him that was supposed to clean it. He was approved for a ton of overtime. Didn't need it. They bagged their garbage. They were respectful. Look, it's remember, this is the second World Cup in the United States in our lifetime. 1994, there was a friendly in Cleveland, in the old stadium before they tore it down. So yeah, it's I enjoy the World Cup. I enjoy the Women's World Cup more because the women actually win.
I was just going to say, is it going to change our opinion anymore if the U.S. starts making a run in the knockout round? Are we going to pay attention, or is it going to be almost kind of like what we were expecting with the Detroit Pistons, waiting for the other shoe to drop because they're playing with fool's gold, just because of how much more the field is expanded and the fact that they don't have to go through like a group of death because you don't have that set up. Italy's not there, hasn't been in the, missed the World Cup for however many, years. They don't have to go up against a Mexico, a Brazil, an Argentina, an England, in their group.
Not until, I say this, England is having trouble because they're in Miami. By the way, I don't know if you saw this, but it is statistically possible that on July 4th, the U.S. could play England in a knockout stage game.
That is true. Yeah, that is very, very true, because I know with the way that they have these games staggered, Turkey and Paraguay is like the group A, B, and C have all played 2 games, and then the U.S. and Australia have played 2 games, and everybody else all the way down the pipe from the middle of Group D that the U.S. is in through Group L have only played 1. So, I mean, they're only doing 4 games a day across the entire thing. And then naturally, because you're getting some games in Mexico, you're getting a couple of games in Canada. Thoughts go out to that Canadian player, that Canadian star who busted his leg with a controversial tackle in their win over Qatar, and is basically now lost not only for the World Cup, but the rest of his season once he goes back to his primary club. And I heard it was a pretty gruesome injury too.
It was. I saw someone shared it on X, and when I saw him go down, I had to flip it because I was just like, no, I can't watch this. It's terrible. Here's an interesting fact. They're not tapping any of the college football stadiums for this that hold 100,000 plus people. I know the U.S. game today was in Seattle. The crowd there actually broke the 12's record for decibel level during the game. So listen, I hope the U.S. does well. If they get Pulisic back, they'll be far better off. But outside of that, Jim, if I'm talking about World Cup and I'm caring, it's the women's team.
Yeah.
Every chance, and twice on Sundays.
Yep. They won't play again until actually their final match of the qualifying round won't be until the 25th. So they won't play again until Thursday when they'll play Turkey. But again, that actually kind of makes sense because of all the groups that they have to go through and the fact that they're only running 4 games a day. And people also have to keep, I mean, this isn't like, the Olympics where the whole tournament's got to be done. You've only got 12 teams going. You have your round robins and then you've got your knockouts and the whole tournament's done in 10 days. This is a month-long thing.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful thing. I mean, it is really truly when you talk about everybody in professional sports call themselves a world champion if they win the Stanley Cup, the NBA championship, the World Series, even the Super Bowl. This is the true world champion because the whole fucking world plays.
Until we actually get like a cross-continental type thing, where like the Champions League meet, and like the World Cup and La Liga and Bundesliga, and from Germany and like all the super leagues come together, and actually just do one big invitational as opposed to just like, CONCACAF for North America and Latin America and and the Caribbean and things like that. So this way you actually bring everybody together, whether it's a neutral site or something. You do something like at the end of every year when all of their champions, go through.
Yeah.
Michael,
James,
I think it's time.
I do too.
Would you shut up and just push the button already?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
It's the YZ Translator on the Wise Guys Sports Show.
I'm forever unclean.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is the YZ Translator. It is the best segment of the night because it is the last segment of the night. It's that time where James and I give each other names inside and outside of the sports world, and we give you the first thing that pops into our sleep-deprived, caffeine-riddled brains. The translator has made it through every iteration of this show, from the live event to the draft shows to the pre-recorded now. And tonight is just one of those where I hope I am not called names because of the name I give James in tonight's translator, as I have been called names several times over the last few weeks. Really? Fucking really? Our first Chronicle back. No. Play mine.
What do she fucks?
That we're using my kid for clickbait in the translator.
Stupid idiot.
You, not Bobby.
I know. Oh, can you send me mine, by the way?
Yeah, I'll get it to you after the show.
I am going to give you a name going back 10 years. And it's more of a reaction that you may have to this person. But it is really where it all started for our largest segment of the show. Your name in tonight's YZ Translator. Former Golden State Warrior shooting guard, Klay, don't poke the bear, Thompson.
Didn't show up in game 7, had to be carried to the finish. Couple of bad turnovers late in that game. Yeah, he got himself 3 rings. And really is now kind of at the end of his career with the move to Dallas. Did we ever think we'd see the day where it was going to be the Splash Brothers and he was going to be the one on the way out? And now it's like Draymond and Steph still kind of producing at this level until like Draymond eventually, commits one foul too many and gets kicked out of the league. And Klay Thompson is now kind of the Warriors version of Kevin Love, is that he's moved on into obscurity.
Yeah. We knew he was going to be the one to go because Steph has 2 MVPs and all the rings and yada yada. Yeah, no, you knew he was going to go. But
Even though,
he started the whole thing.
I mean, exactly. Even though like Klay was the first one that got there out of the 3.
Yeah, he was. And I'm talking about the comeback when he said that LeBron got his feelings hurt and that's why Draymond got suspended. No, Draymond got suspended because they should have suspended him in the Western Conference Finals that years for kicking Steven Adams in the junk. Think about it. If the NBA does what they were supposed to and suspend him during the Western Conference Finals, we're talking about probably a 4 or 5 game series against OKC, and Cavs win that championship, and it's just a win. It's not this.
I mean, because remember that entire playoffs, there was rumor of him with all the flagrants and the technicals not being able to play in a couple of those games. He kicks Adams low, in one of those, and then even though it wasn't so much a hard foul, everyone Cleveland was about ready to fly out at the speed of sound out to Oakland and murder him when they thought that he broke LeBron's wrist with 19 seconds left.
Yeah, no, I was ready to leave New York and pick people up on the way to California in Cleveland.
When that happened, going back to that segment here, everyone in Cleveland, I'd love to know what your take on it was, talking with people in the aftermath, even after the fact, of watching the play. How many people thought that Draymond, it was a dirty play, although it really wasn't? And how many people immediately didn't start pointing the finger at LeBron? I'm sorry, didn't start pointing the finger at Draymond, and immediately had concern that LeBron broke his wrist on that fall.
I did too, because that's the same fall Patrick Ewing took in those 99 playoffs, which basically cost him his Knicks career. They get to the finals without him with Latrell Sprewell and Allen Houston and Larry Johnson. I thought he did. I thought LeBron was going to have to come out of the game and not be on the floor when they won the championship.
Yep.
But I will say this. That play in itself, when you watch it over and over again, wasn't dirty. He went for the ball. They collided. That's what happened. And they're great friends off the court, which I find hilarious. But yeah, no, it's still no words. This many years later, all the shit that went down, just no words.
It still kind of makes you wonder if he would have come out, and we should have brought this up during that segment, because of the fact that you can't put in somebody to take the free throws from him who was already on the floor. Who would you have put in his place? Would you put in Channing Frye? Would you have actually gone Mo Williams just to be able to knock down the 2 free throws? Would you put Delly in there, who was a good free throw shooter? Your options were pretty limited, but you did have a couple of good free throw shooters, on the bench at that point.
I probably would have put Delly in there only because you would need someone to be scrappy on defense in the final possession.
Michael, staying with the NBA tonight, it's not going to be the biggest domino to fall in free agency and trades and everything, but it's the first one that we've actually got official news on. And it's now turning what could be a very promising year for the team that he got traded to into one of a lot of uncertainty now, and that is now former Washington Wizards guard and former All-Star Trae Young.
Well, you always blame Trae Young no matter what. So there's that. But I saw that he opted out and he will not play in that under contract. But I did also see that it looks like he's going to be signing a 3-year max deal to go back to Washington. So that may just be a legal restructuring for him, wanting to make some more money for that. I think the bigger shoe that might drop is the Jaylen Brown Giannis trade.
That's That's a one that's on a lot of people's minds. There was the James Harden possibly opting out with Cleveland to be able to sign for less money to be able to get them under the second apron, but for a longer deal, which actually might end up being James Harden's final contract. And then sure enough, there's the unlicensed gun charge or something that showed up in
Yep.
Texas late last week. That's really is going to end up getting settled and everything. But I mean, really, kind of how the mighty have fallen, how the turns have tabled, so to speak, with Trey Young. Not to try to make light of it or anything, but going from an All Star then hits the injury bug, and the Wizards having the number one pick in the draft, they've already kind of announced, uh, all signs are kind of pointing as to who they're going to end up taking next week in the draft, and then you add him with Jalen Jackson and now the draft pick and Anthony Davis, assuming they can stay healthy, you could actually see hopefully a Charlotte style improvement with Washington, but you never really know when you go out and you get a veteran like a Trey Young who one injury kind of derails everything. You're trying to play with magic beans at this point, and then you throw another one in there with Anthony Davis.
Yeah, I mean this off season in the NBA and is going to be interesting because you got a lot of moving pieces, and obviously this is our last NBA show of the year where it's a priority unless certain things happen. I mean, if we have to come to you live one night or not live, but come to you on our show because Jaylen Brown did get traded and Giannis does end up with the Celtics, we'll obviously do that. If LeBron comes home, I think that's going to be a big thing too. There's a lot going into this NBA offseason that I think you and I are going to have to really monitor to keep tabs on going forward. It's going to be an interesting one in the NBA this offseason.
And with the NHL as well, it's just the moving and shaking going around. Who's going to retire? Or I mean, there's not a whole lot of big names out there that we think are going to retire. In the NBA, some guys maybe who we think could retire, maybe hanging on for one more contract. A couple of movers and shakers, and that's actually the thing about the NBA with the second apron and everything. And load management. Sometimes it's extending these guys' careers a few extra years, but really, what's it really doing? Because they're not having nearly as much of the impact as they did, maybe say 5, 6, 7 years ago at the start of the decade, or the end of the previous one that we were actually seeing, before. We're talking like the end of like Kobe's time and Carmelo. It's definitely going to be very, very interesting to see where we go here. And really, by the time we actually come to you, in time for the All-Star game and the home run derby in baseball, we're going to see we're going to see everything kind of open up in the two sports, in the two winter sports. We're going to see most of the big names snatched up right away. We might have a couple straggling out there, but I got a feeling it's going to be something that now that the season's officially over, you're going to start seeing a lot of the talk start to come around here, and we're going to start to see a lot more names and a lot more things start to progress. And now comes the rumor mill and the speculation, which is half the fun of the offseason up until day one of that offseason where things actually open up and all hell breaks loose. We see it in every sport.
We do. Free agency in baseball, the hot stove, we see it all the time. I'm very interested to see where LeBron lands. If he announces this is his final year, it'll be interesting. But right now, I want those boys to keep having fun on that trip because that looks like that's some good stuff. But 214, James, not bad.
Yeah, it's
enough for as long as the long thing.
Little longer than we wanted to, but we'll actually our last show of the month will actually be pre-recorded. We'll record middle of next week. We'll actually have it up next Saturday. We're going to take the 4th of July weekend off. Mike's actually got something going on. I'm looking forward to the 3-day weekend from work. We're definitely gonna one of these years we're gonna have our own little Joey Chestnut challenge or something like that. We'll watch him stuff 947 hot dogs in his face in 10 minutes or whatever, um, and go from there. Mike, one more thing I actually wanted to ask you about. What did you think of the spectacle on the White House lawn last week?
Do you remember the episode of Family Guy where Stewie says, Brian, is this our vacation? Yeah. Are we trash? Kinda.
They're now talking about putting a WWE event there. It's like, first of all, you got to open that for the public, and you can't let the public on the grounds like that without visitor passes and screening.
Nope.
It
I did find one thing funny, that these idiots were laughing at a joke about the former first lady, but when someone calls them out in their shit, they're persecuted.
And especially with today being what it is, and um as we're really about 22 minutes away from it. Happy Juneteenth to everybody out there. It's not just a day off, but it's definitely a day of reflection. It's something that everyone should be celebrating. I saw a whole bunch of people like putting laughing emojis or comments or something. And the only thing I kept thinking of is, wow, you actually took time to wash your white hood and cape and be able to make this comment online, today. So it shows us really, where your priorities and your common sense and human decency lie. And now also there's a lot of people starting to push for the former first lady to sue that guy for defamation of character, which I honestly feel that she could do. She won't because of how classy of a person she is. Um, and to rub salt in the wounds while we actually finish up here, did you see that the pool in DC is already starting to peel? The blue paint is peeling in sections. It is a ADHD fan's pipe dream right now. Yes, I know the video that you sent me, the photo that you sent me. Yep.
How fitting. Because the shitter is full.
Yeah. And the tarp is still up outside the Kennedy Center. Although, from what I'm actually hearing, the only legit excuse I could hear for that is that they said apparently they have to refinish or repair the marble because it was damaged when they put the lettering in. That actually makes a little bit of sense. So everyone talking about taking it down, but the fact is, it's going up on a week. It doesn't take you a week to fix marble under there.
Yeah, no. This is, there's something else going on. But we will leave that speculation for another time because, Jim, it was about 10 years ago at this moment that the drought was over and the happiest Father's Day any dad from Cleveland had had in a long time finally brought them the one thing that they longed for outside of Crooked River beer, socks, and tickets to a doubleheader.
I mean, granted, with our fathers, especially mine, kind of growing up here, Miguel did not, but you know, our fathers are old enough to remember '64, um, and our grandfathers also not only remember '64 but also '48, um, and really all the legendary Browns championships before that. But yeah, it's what a treat. Um, It was 10 years ago. I'll probably watch the game in its entirety tomorrow. If you go on YouTube, they have the entire game up commercial free. I'll probably do that, and then you know I'll watch my Smosh Reads Reddit stories while playing Final Fantasy and Warframe, and then I'll actually put on a replay of Game Seven Blues Bruins from 2019. Um, How satisfying was that? That like two of my favorite championship finals in recent memory, Brad Marchand crying, and then Carter Hart left crying on the ice after both losing the Stanley Cup on home ice. How satisfying.
Very.
Very much. So we will actually see you guys next Saturday, pre-recorded nonetheless, and then we'll actually let you know our schedule for July, because we may have to move a couple of things around with my oral surgery. I got a couple of things coming up at that point, but we'll keep you guys abreast of everything. For my partner Mike Martinez, I am JC Blue Note Jim Crenity. Have yourselves a great night, a great weekend. We'll see you guys next week. And go enjoy Game 7.
And Cleveland, that was for you.